All right, thank you. We're back here at 26 Sports. Your host again, Michael Red. This is episode number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we are here live with the man, the myth, the legend, the man himself, the great matchmaker of GoldenBoy, Roberto Diaz. How you doing today, Roberto?
I'm doing good, Michael. Thank you so much for the invite, and I'm excited, man.
No problem, no problem. Thank you for coming on, man. As always, we have a good rapport. I always like talking with you, man. So I had to get you on as soon as you had a chance. So I appreciate you coming on, man, and helping me, get this going here.
Absolutely. Look, what we need is people like you that are promoting our sport, the sport we love.
Yep.
Because there's so many people out there that work in the sport, but all they do is trying to chop the heads off the sport, and
Yeah.
promote the negative of it. And we hear that enough. All the best, all the success in the world.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much, Roberto. Thank you. And well, we'll get right into it, man. We know everything that's been going on with the coronavirus pandemic, everything that's going on. I mean, it shut the world down pretty much for a couple months. It shut down the sport of boxing up until a few weeks ago. And it shut Golden Boy essentially down up until, just this last couple weeks. As now you guys got the dates going. You got the card on July 24th in India. So what have you been up to through this whole time? I mean, it was real. It came so quick. It seemed like. I mean, we heard about the severity of it or the realness in it, and then one day it was like, hey, stop everything. So what have you been up to through this whole time?
You know, Most importantly, be charging batteries.
Yeah.
Obviously, didn't think it would go this long. I don't think nobody did. So during that time, it was uh, you know charge the batteries and enjoy the family, and enjoy some of the peace.
Yes.
Obviously, in lockdown, in boxing, we travel so much. We sacrifice not only the boxers, but everybody involved. Sometimes sacrifice the family, not being there for birthdays or special dates, or in my case, Thanksgiving all the time.
Yeah.
So this was a moment to, you know, give back to the family and also take in what that. So I've looked at the positive and all the negative, and obviously, uh, we know how severe it is. Never in our wildest dreams did we probably think, there's going to be no sport, but more than sport, so many unemployed people, so many people losing lives, and it's bigger. It's bigger than I think anybody imagined.
Yeah.
But like any world championship fight, I mean, I think we can get through it.
Exactly. And we've started to little by little. Hopefully, I mean, I know the cases seem to be rising in the fact of people getting sick, but the actual death rate seems to be dropping down a little bit. So that's I mean, as you said, gotta weigh the positive, negative. Yeah, the negative right now is that the rates are going up, but it seems like the death rates are going down a little bit. So
And
take it
the
with
way I was thinking, seeing and reading is, we may all have to get it at
yeah,
one point. It's like the new flu, a stronger virus. So eventually, hopefully, our bodies, can adapt and fight it off. And the cases are increasing because it's summer. Everybody wants to go out, and then maybe are forgetting how severe it is. Go out, do your mask, cover yourself, clean yourself, social distance, and it should be okay. But you hit it right on the point. Right, as long as the deaths are down, you know, it's a positive sign.
yeah. And I mean, as you said, we got to take the negative with the positive. So negative at this point right now is that the rates are going up. Positive is that the deaths have actually gone down. So I mean, we got to take what we can get right now, and maybe as you said, maybe it is something that a lot of people do have to get to the point where we start to develop a type of immunity to it or something. And it seems like maybe that's what it is as well, because as we said, the death rates have dropped. So maybe that's what it is, that now people are so much more gotten used to it that maybe they are starting to be able to take it.
I've known of several cases that people that have gotten it, had no symptoms at all. They didn't
Yeah.
even know they were sick. They didn't know until they tested and they were positive. So it's like that's scary, but at the same time, it's a good news that look, there's people that are not even going to get sick.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking too. Is like I know a lot of people. I know from what happened with me last year at the end of December. Uh, I actually got really sick. Like I mean, I was sweating, coughing. I had never felt that sick in a long time, and honestly, I don't remember if I've ever been that sick where it wasn't something serious. But I didn't think nothing of it, and at the end of the day, I was told upper respiratory. So that's all I heard. So a lot of people that I came in contact with, same type of thing. My brother, actually, they told him the same thing. Oh, upper respiratory, and I had just seen him on Christmas when I was actually like pretty much like I guess like shedding it. So we all feel like maybe we got it. I'm not gonna say we did because you don't know,
Sure.
but it's something that if that's what it is, when they explained all the symptoms, I'm like, man, that's exactly what I had. And then
Wow.
yeah, and the thing is that in the Bay Area in California is when they said it first started in November or December, there was cases there, and that's where I was at when I got sick was in December. So I was like, wow, you know what? Maybe that's what happened. I'm not again 100% sure, but hey, I mean now that I think about it, maybe it was. So
Possibly, yeah. And they still haven't said anything in the U.S. Maybe thinking it wasn't going to be this big for a lot of people. But I don't. I mean, it didn't happen one day, and then all of a sudden it spread all over the country.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, right now I feel like I do think a lot more people are still going to get sick because the thing is it can't lock down forever. I mean, I know a lot of people want it to, but we just can't. There's too much money that people need to make. They can't be without work. So, like the unemployment thing, that's not going to last forever. People can't keep doing that because there's only so much money that's saved up in there. So, at the end of the day, I just hope we do push through it, which I believe we will. And we're able to go back to what we're able to do and show just how good we are, not just as a country, but in the world.
100%.
Yeah, and so let's get into boxing now. We had a big moment for you guys last week with Joshua Franco. I actually spoke with him a couple days ago and last week as well. I had been telling people for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, if you guys are overlooking Franco, you guys are making a big mistake. I just had that feeling that he was gonna do it. I don't know what it was. I think it was just seeing all the fights that he had been in, the wars. But seeing him pull off that victory, how was that for you? Knowing that you guys have had him, from the very beginning, you guys have watched him grow, and now a world champion.
It's very special. Anytime you have a fighter that represents your company, you win a world title, it's special. But when you have a fighter that debuted with you, and you saw go from 4 rounds to 6, from 6 to 8, 8 to 10, and then graduate into a world fight and win, that's even more special. I told him today when we talked that he did the three elements. I mean, winning a world title, seeing him from pro debut to champion, and seeing the father-son
Yeah.
make that dream come true. That's what makes all the headaches and all the BS you go through. You erase it. This is what makes it all worth it.
Yeah, and it was a really good fight. I mean, respect also to Maloney. I mean, he fought with two perforated eardrums for the majority of that fight, and he was still in it. It was a close, competitive fight. One of the things that I told Josh was that uppercut. He seemed to be landing it at will throughout the fight, and I was like, dude, I've seen him throw it before, but it just seemed like it was on point that night, like no other time. Yeah, I mean, he performed beyond what I thought. I thought he could win the fight. I thought he would, but he did even better than what I expected, honestly.
And that's what it's a good example to other fighters, to fight fans. And I haven't been saying it for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year. I've been saying it from a long time. Fighters that grow up tough that are through the process, have those tough fights. Not every fight, because you don't want to end the career early,
Yep.
but progressively. It might not, and I said it, you know what? I'm not here to build pretty records. I want to build world champions. And even though Franco should be undefeated, because the loss in Puerto Rico was very bad stoppage.
Yeah.
I mean, he drops the Argentinian, they don't stop it, but then he gets and they call it off. So he should be undefeated.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have 30 fights, I mean, under 20 fights, and the world champion.
Yeah.
But tough fights. The 30 rounds he did with Negrete,
Yes.
he showed he can go forward. He showed he can box. He can counterpunch. He can mix it up. That's why going into the fight, we were very confident. Not overconfident, because undefeated world champion coming to the U.S. But Franco's also very disciplined, always training. You add that and talent,
Yeah.
it was a 50-50. I was surprised when I saw the odds, and a lot of people discredit. But I said, that doesn't matter. It matters once that bell rings. And it was just a very, very enjoyable moment. I'm very happy for him and San Antonio. I mean, hey, they got a new world champion.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, as I said, when I seen those odds, I was like, if you want to take a bet on any fight, this is the one to do it on. And after it, people were like, oh, you called it. I was like, it's the thing is, I enjoy, as you said, watching from the beginning. I enjoy when I go to cover a fight. I want to be there from fight one till the very last fight, because you don't know which fighter you're gonna see and be like, man, I've seen his first professional fight, and now look at him. I tell a lot of people the first fight I ever covered in my life was a fight out in Lemoore, California, at the Tachi Palace, and it was Andy Ruiz as the main event. And I told him, man, look,
wow.
And 4 years later, he won the world title. And I tell people, look, that's why I go to every single fight. People will tell me, oh, I go third, fourth, fifth fight. If the fight card starts at 3 o'clock, I'll be there. If it starts at 1, I'm going to be there. I don't care. I want to see every fight, because you don't know who's going to be.
That's a true boxing fan.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Not only are you enjoying the main event that everybody knows of, but you're enjoying the appetizer prior to that. And you know, the day, months from now, years from now, like you said, you're going to know these guys coming up, and others are going to be like, who are they? I don't know. You've been at the casino at the buffet. Well, I've been watching them. Hurry up.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was the thing with Franco. Is like, dude, I've watched him since he's fought at the Belasco Theater. I've seen his fight, so I've seen the 4 rounds, the 6 rounds, the 8 rounds. So, and I was like, and I've seen his 3 fights with Negrete, and I think that's what did it for me. Was he went through 3 wars. Maloney had not fought with that type of adversity yet. Maloney did end up showing me he can, because 2 perforated eardrums is nothing to bat your eyes at. That was a real injuries, and he fought through them. He did lose the fight. Franco did earn it, but that shows his heart as well. So it was just, he hadn't got there, and Franco knew exactly what to do. I mean, Maloney started out strong, and Franco just, to me, it was like, okay. I mean, as his nickname is, it's the professor, so that's what he looked like he was doing. Like, all right, I'm gonna study this, and I'm gonna get you. And I also,
that showed me a lot in the first round. Maloney threw a lot of punches in the first round.
Yes.
And he was excited. He was excited to be in the States and fighting in Vegas, but there's a little bit of nerves there, right?
Yeah.
Like anxious, and Franco did the opposite. I'm catching the punches, feeling. Let me see how his punch is, but very patient. So even though Maloney had much more fights and he was a world champion, you saw more experience in Joshua.
Yeah.
It's a 12-round fight. I don't need to start early or start fast. I need to finish strong.
Yeah, and
but
also,
yes, you're right. All props to Maloney, showed a lot of heart, and look, the kid will learn a lot from this fight of himself, and whatever mistakes, correct them and come back stronger.
Yeah, and who knows? It could be 2 or 3 years down the line. Maybe when Franco moves up, if Maloney's still at that same weight, he could fight for the title again or fight for a title, and he might be fighting a kid that's in the same position that Franco was, but it's going to be the other way around. Now Maloney's been through that war, through that injury, through that adversity, and he's going to be like, okay, I know what to do here. So definitely,
Exactly.
and I also think a lot with Franco is the camp that he's in. He's in with Robert Garcia, who has, I mean, you look left and right. Hey, here's Jose Ramirez, world champ. Hey, here's Mikey Garcia, one of the top fighters in the sport. Here's Virgil Ortiz, one of the best. I'm not even going to call him a prospect no more. One of the best contenders in the sport. He's got just a mix of fighters everywhere that he could learn from. I mean, you've seen the night of the fight. Every single person from that stable was out there sending videos in support of him. So I think that helps so much as well.
Absolutely. That's very motivating for a young fighter when they see world champions that they train with or fighters, let's say, that already made it, still putting in that hard work. It's you to say, you know what, I got to work hard too, because I still haven't made it. So, and working with that family type atmosphere, yes, where pushing each other can only benefit. I mean, that fighter that doesn't get motivated or doesn't like that camaraderie is just looking for an excuse. Yeah, I'll train tomorrow, I'll go here, I'll go later, I'd like to run alone or this, that. There's nothing better than the camaraderie.
Yeah, and that's what I feel helps out a lot. I mean, with Jose Ramirez, just speaking of that fighter, he's grown so much and gotten to that point of one of the best 140 pounders in the world in the few fights that he's been with Robert Garcia. So definitely, I feel that that type of ties is what helps out so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now, speaking of, as we were talking about Negrete, how's he doing? I know he's got that injury. I know he was supposed to fight a couple days after that. How's he doing right now?
You know what? He's doing very well. He had the procedure done because originally the doctor's diagnosis was he can have the procedure and still fight. So he went in, had the procedure, and after they said, look, no contact for a couple of weeks, which meant no sparring. So I was going to take a fight just to show up, and it was. Yeah. So he's doing good. The 2 weeks are done. I spoke to the manager early, Steve Garcia, and I said, look, make sure, once he gets back, because Negrete loves to be in the gym. He's always training as well. I said, make sure he stays in shape, running, hitting the pads, hitting the heavy bag, jumping rope. No spar. No, he's not going to spar. Obviously very conscious of the seriousness of how it could be and doesn't want to push it until, it's time to fight.
That's good. And that's perfect. And yeah, at that whole time when that was being set up, my thought was if he gets it the same way, Franco has his fight, I was like, I thought both of them honestly were gonna be winners. But things happen, but Negrete should come back, and I'm interested to see him fight again. And I know he's probably more motivated knowing the fights he gave Josh and to see Josh win the belt.
He is, and that's another beauty of our sport. Prior to Josh fighting for the title, Negrete and Josh had a call with Jessica Rosales through our GoldenBoy interview.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to see Negrete just wish him all the best and say, bro, I know you can win. I fought you 3 times. You're good. You have everything. So, again, even though 30 rounds of war, there was that camaraderie saying, go get that title and bring it home. So that was really cool. And that just speaks of who these two guys are, too. They're both two gentlemen in the ring.
Yeah, it's all class. It's all class, and we've seen that with Franco. As soon as he won, he was just so humble about it, and that's the good thing. Those are the guys that fans want to root for as well. And then and to me, it's funny that name, the Professor, when you think of Franco, because I remember the first time I did see him when he walked into an arena, the little hoodie, the glasses, and I was like, who's this guy? I'm not gonna lie, I honestly didn't. I thought he was just there as a fan. And then someone told me, no, he's fighting tonight. And then I seen him, and I was like, oh my God, that's the same guy. And yeah, he just looks so calm, so just relaxed and everything. And
very quiet, very calm, not loud. No, always been very professional. Still hides the age well. I mean, he's young, but he still looks like he's 16, 17.
Yeah, he still looks like he's in high school. They probably checked his ID.
Exactly.
They probably checked his ID when he walked into the arena. Like, no, 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 you're not supposed to be here. So
Exactly.
yeah, and it's cool to see that. As I said, I mean, I watched him from pretty much like fight one to go up to that point. It's cool to see. I mean, as I always tell everybody, I don't have a rooting interest in these fights. I just love to see the fights. But stories like that are those ones where you're like, man, that's awesome. That's impressive. You know, especially when I'm able to see
And,
from fight one.
and props to Top Rank because look, that's what I've been calling for as well. All the promoters working together. Put your best against everybody else's best. And boxing wins because you're gonna get good fights.
Yeah,
And you know what? Sometimes you're gonna come up short. Your guy's gonna lose. Sometimes he's gonna win. But it's part of boxing.
yeah.
But boxing wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you know what? You guys and Top Rank and even Matchroom, you guys have all done fights together, which I love because yeah, it's given so many good fights. Especially when you guys all work together. I mean, that helps out so much. And I know there's always the little people would like to talk about PBC, but I know they're gonna do it. I mean, they've done it to a point now with Wilder and Fury. So I know it's gonna get there to where all these fights are gonna be made because at the end of the day, so many of these fighters want these fights. That's the thing. If these fighters push enough, they're gonna happen.
And that's it. The fighters have to speak up and say, look, we want this.
Yeah,
At Golden Boy, we've shown it in the past. I mean, words speak, the action speaks louder than the word. We've worked with Top Rank several times. Last year, we did 3 world title fights with them. Okay? We had done Linares against Lomachenko. This year, we just did 2. And then we have another one that was postponed.
yeah, yeah,
Herring against Jonathan Otero. We've worked with Matchroom many times. I mean, Linares himself has fought 4 Matchroom guys. Twice against Prona, Luke Campbell, and Kevin Mitchell.
yeah,
Worked with Kathy Duva, Don King. Even PBC, we've done some fights.
yeah. JoJo and Gary Russell.
JoJo, Gary Russell was a mandatory, and then we did Canelo against Khan. We did
Yeah,
Canelo against Chavez Jr. So we've got, but it's just if everybody did look, imagine like a Super Bowl. AFC, NFC, everybody
yeah.
has their conference, everybody puts in their best, then you have playoffs, and then you have the Super Bowl. Boxing wins.
Yes, and especially right now, I mean, there's really nowhere to hide. So these fights are gonna be done, and I believe that they will show much more. As I've always told people, through every dark time in pretty much in the world, boxing has always been there, and I think this is gonna be another one.
Absolutely. It's the first sport. And see, that's another thing, Michael, that it's one of the first sports that gets started during the pandemic, after,
Yep.
post pandemic, and we're still going through it. But I said it earlier, and I congratulate you for supporting the sport that you love, that we all love, but pushing it in a positive way rather than, oh, who wants to see these crummy fights? You know what? There's live content right now.
Yep.
If a few months ago people were complaining because, man, I miss boxing. As soon as the schedule goes up, oh, why am I going to watch that fight? Why am I going to watch this fight? It's not that easy right now to just do fights.
Yeah.
You can't bring fighters from certain countries or a lot of the countries because they're closed, borders are closed. So you have a smaller pool. A lot of the gyms in the country still haven't opened, so fighters still haven't been sparring, training. So that even, makes the pool smaller. We just have to be happy that we're in the right direction, moving towards what we normally are used to seeing.
Yeah, and we know it's gonna get there, but yeah, it's just as you said, right now it's a little harder. But hey, I'll tell people, I don't care who's. I mean, I watched those cards from Nicaragua that happened. The cards that they did beforehand. I've watched all the UFC cards. I don't care who's fighting where. I'll watch it and I'm going to support it. As you said, it's a sport I love, so I'm always going to be supporting it. And when things go back to normal, hopefully, then I mean you could talk about a fight saying, oh, it should be this, but I'll still watch. I don't care. I just love watching boxing. That's just it. Some of the best fights I've seen have been with guys with 6, 7, 8 losses on their records against each other. So Hey, I'll sit there and watch it. Like I said, from the very first fight to the very end.
And that's important because right now they're filling in content and they just they have to match up. They're losing fights because it's all new territory for us.
Yep.
To lose fights on the after a weigh-in is not common, but it's happening.
Yep.
Or positive test the day of, or so we just got to adjust, and the fans have to be a little patient because it's all new to us as well. But we're just trying to deliver the best we can at the moment. How we have.
Yeah, and with you guys especially, you guys have a good card for the 24th. It looks like Virgil Ortiz, Samuel Vargas. That looks like it's. I mean, Vargas should be able to provide Ortiz with some sort of test because he's been in there with a lot of good fighters. But I liked as well when I seen the co-main event, Hector Tanajara and Mercito Gesta. That's a great fight to me, man, because I've seen Hesta since he was, young, coming up, and people he's been in the ring against, as you spoke, Linares as well. And I've seen Tanajara get, as I said, same thing, from fight one up to this point. That's a solid test for him. So those are good fights right there coming out on the 24th.
Thank you. We're excited. I mean, Mercito Gesta has been a kid that I've known for many years. He's fought for the world title a couple times. He's come up short. Valuable experience. He's always in shape. I mean, right now, during the pandemic, he was out there helping all the first responders and taking them food and very much involved in the community, but training really well. And he's one of those guys that doesn't matter. You call him, hey, there's a fight, you're fighting, you'll fight anybody.
Yeah.
He's motivated, and he should be. Look, Franco just won the world title. They came up together. We signed them at the same time. They know each other. It gives them that extra motivation, saying hard work pays off. And Hector wants those bigger names. You know what? I have to beat him at Mercito Gesta if I want to go challenge for the top 5 or the world title for him.
Yeah.
So it's a meaningful fight. And it's just going to be impose their will, and whose style is going to impose. I mean, you have Mercito's a little faster, maybe, even though he's, the vet. And Tanajara, I mean, finito. He's very, very, very good counterpuncher, and he's very strong. I mean, I've seen him go down, and everybody, what? And he came a couple rounds later and stopped his opponent.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, tough fights, not just a record. Those tough fights build character and make champions.
Yeah, and then again with Testa, I mean, he's if Hector is not there, not ready, not fully in, he's gonna be in for a long night. So again, because of the camp he is in and the fighter he is and the adversity he's fought through, I don't think he's gonna overlook him. So I expect a really good fight there. I believe it's gonna turn into a real war at some point, just because they both have that type of heart, and neither one of them is going to want to back down.
And it's an important fight for both of them. Obviously, Mercito at this point of his career, a loss really hurts him. Hector knows a win over an experienced fighter like Mercito is going to give him a lot of experience. And again, the winner goes on to the bigger things, but as it should be. The appetizer before that main event, before that fighter. Virgil Ortiz and Samuel Vargas. Virgil and Vargas were supposed to take a couple weeks before the pandemic and the shutdown. It's a fight that was just naturally made. And Vargas, he's been up-minded from the moment he signed it. He said, oh, you guys picked the wrong guy. And then, look, I'm going to go upset your guy. You take it, obviously, but you listen. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Did I, push it too much and everything? But that's the thing with Virgil. He's again very dedicated, trains hard, lives and sleeps and sweats boxing.
Yeah. And one of the
and don't forget we got Senicia on the card, and Hector Valdez, and I mean it's going to be a very, very fun fight. Evan Sanchez is on as well.
Yeah, Parlier, California, right there. He's a strong, heavy hitting kid, man. Yeah. And speaking of that was going to be the next thing. I know for a little bit, you guys had a little bit of a rough patch after, the exodus of everyone going to PBC, what they did. But you guys have built up such a strong stable. I mean, you guys have a lot of prospects that are looked at very well. And I mean, one of the things that I read on Twitter, and I forgot who posted it, but someone said, I can see another group of these Golden Boy prospects contenders within the next year possibly winning another good group of titles because that's just what they've developed there. And I've always pointed that out. I mean, I even told you once was I love the way the fighters that you guys put the prospects. You guys never seem to baby them up to a certain point. You guys are like, all right, you got to go into the fire. You're gonna have to show us. And I love the way you do that because so many fighters you see they get up to 25, 30 and 0, and then they run into that one real test and they crumble. And your guys, it's like they're 12 and 0, they're put into a test and they pass it. It's like, okay, well, we have something real here. So
I think that's the beauty. I mean, and there's times where you don't want to go too fast because you could shorten a career, ruin a career. You don't want to go too slow because then the age will catch up and it'll be like, what happened? So it's luck, it's experience. I mean, we've done it before. A lot of people thought when all that split and everything and all the champions, oh man, that's it. It's over for GoldenBoy. Well, they forget that fighters that were all champions and left or their contract was over, whatever the reason was, debuted with GoldenBoy. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't something that was going to be new. We've never been here. What are we going to do? We don't have fighters. Let's rebuild. Let's go sign the talent, build them. And it takes from 0 to world title, it's about 20 fights. And then you have some injuries or cuts or here and there that poke up. So the average time to make a world champion is 5 years. Mm. So here we're seeing Joshua Franco from pro debut, not even the 5 years yet, world champion. He was a little faster because the weight class is tougher. So right from the beginning, Robert Garcia, his dad, us at the office were like talking, hey, we're going to move him a little faster. And yes, he had the experience from the amateur, and he was showing in the fights that I'm ready for the next. I'm ready for the next. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to that, that's something that I am proud of when I hear, oh, GoldenBoy doesn't beat your fight. Because remember, when an athlete and the team comes to the table to sign, we're better than anybody else. We can fight for the world title tomorrow if you want. Even though it's a pro debut, or I'm giving you an exaggerated example, but very close. And then once everything's pen and paper, oh, not yet, not yet, not yet. Give me another tune-up. Give me another tune-up. Make me look good. You know what? There's a process. The first couple of years, getting that fighter, the confidence, sometimes they're still baby. They're still young. But as you see how they're maturing, you want to throw a southpaw. You want to throw somebody that's a little bit taller, rangier, make them have difficulties that they have to get through. They find out a lot about themselves. Me as the matchmaker find, okay, you know what? I'm going to stay away from this, or I'm going to look for more of this. Made him look great. And that's where you learn. You learn from the fighter as well. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, it prepares them for that night. You mentioned earlier, Joshua, the uppercut. Let's go back to Canelo Liam Smith in Dallas.
Yep.
Joshua fought a kid from Terrible Morales' stable in Tijuana. Tough kid. I mean, that kid was strong, came forward. Joshua dropped him not once, twice with the same uppercut. Beautiful uppercut. Actually was probably the knockout of the night that night, because of that beautiful uppercut, the way he landed. It's just that punch. I think he says one of his favorite fighters is Benito Lopez.
Yeah.
He fights a little bit like Benito Lopez, man.
Yeah, and they're at around that same type of weight class. I mean, they're the lower weight. So yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
and see that's my thing is when I watch a fighter, I watch the differences. Like I've told people with Franco, it was that uppercut. I just seen it, bam! It was just so precise, and I kept saying he's not missing with it. And I was like, at some point, because of that uppercut, Maloney's going to be so worried about it. Josh is going to start going to the body, and then once he gets him to the body, he's going to eventually land that shot upstairs, and he knocked him down. I tell a lot of people with Canelo, when he first came up, you seen he was good. He had all the skills, but that counter punch and that defense wasn't all the way there yet. Now, I mean, he's moving around and it's not even like it looks so effortless, like it's second nature. Like the way he moved against Jacobs was beyond impressive. I mean, he made him miss so many times. The fights with Triple G, where everyone's like, oh, he got him so many times. I'm like, if you really look back at it, he made him miss so much when you thought he was getting hit. Um, and those are the things that I've always noticed with certain fighters. Is as I always tell people, my dad has had me watching boxing since I was probably came out the womb. So I mean, I've always watched it. So and he would tell me, I mean, and he wasn't just as I tell people, he wasn't. Oh, it's only Mexican fighters. He would show me Terry Norris, Julian Jackson, Maldrick Taylor, who had that great fight with Chavez. All these different guys. And one of my favorite fighters growing up, and everyone always seemed shocked to me, was Asuma Nelson. Asuma Nelson was one of my
Asuma
favorite.
was the professor.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite fighters to watch growing up. I remember to this day, I must have been maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I made my dad order a pay-per-view fight because it was Asuma Nelson. I was like, I want to watch this fight. I want to see him fight, and he won. And it's just I've always studied different type of fighters. Hopkins is one of my favorite all-time fighters. My dad loves Bernard Hopkins. He would tell me, "Hey, he's coming out. Let's get it. Let's go watch it." And that's just how it's always been. So I've always studied the different things in fighters and noticed what they're really good at. And to me, Franco has that uppercut down pat, and the IQ is so impressive to me.
And something that's very important, you mentioned, some of these great fighters, Hopkins, Asuma Nelson, Terry Norris, Julian Jackson, they have something in common. They all lost,
Yep.
but they're still remembered as great fighters
Yep.
because they took risks and fought the best.
Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns, they're all
Exactly.
revered.
We still talk about them. We still talk about them to this day. They weren't worried about a record.
Yeah.
They were worried about, if I'm going to be remembered as the best, I got to go beat the best.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of boxing. That's why I always say if a loss will not end the record. Look how many fighters we have in the stable that have lost. And not one or two. I'm talking lost a few times. Pablo Cesar Cano.
Oh, that's one of my favorite fighters right now.
Jorge Linares.
Yes.
And people say, oh, he's done. They're over. Their careers are done. It comes a point where when they're young, the talent, you could see it, but maybe the experience hasn't caught up to it.
Yeah.
Now the talent's there. The experience is there. And they still have that motivation in the guns.
Yeah.
Makes it more dangerous.
Yeah, and then with Cano, as you said, I mean, he's got big upsets on there. I still, to this day, believe he was robbed against Paulie Malignaggi. I feel he won that fight. Linares, he was supposed to be done, 2 or 3 times already. He was supposed to be done when he lost to Sergio Thompson. He was supposed to be done when DeMarco beat him. He was supposed to be done so many times. And he's still here. And as you said, it's they learn from it. They improve from it. I always point, look at what happened with Canelo. Canelo learned so much from that loss with Mayweather.
Absolutely.
You've seen from the moment after that fight against Lara, he learned, okay, he would learn how to cut the ring a little bit better. He learned, hey, you know what, if I'm going to be messing up here so much, I got to go to the body.
Austin Trout was one where next thing you know what we saw with Jacobs making a miss and slipping punches? Austin Trout, and then countered Austin Trout, who was very difficult style to meet and face, and he made it with ease. But you're right. You lose. I mean, you learn more from a loss
Yeah.
than a lot of these wins.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I've always said you're either gonna take it as a loss or you're gonna take it as a learning experience. And I've seen so many
Exactly.
fighters.
That's a very good point.
I've seen so many fighters take that. And look, and we'll talk about it. Lomachenko, his loss with Salido. We know everything that was there, but from that moment, Lomachenko learned, okay, well, I got to watch out for these dirty types of fights. I got to see how these guys are going to come in and do this. And he took his game to another level from that loss. If he would have won that fight, who knows? Maybe he doesn't do as much as he's doing right now because he would have been like, oh, I won my title in the second fight. I haven't been through a struggle. I haven't been through a fight where I'm getting, fouled or getting hit. But because of what he went through in that fight, he's over here dominating these guys left and right until, what Linares, when Linares knocked him down, it was like, whoa, he's been hit. But that, as you said, that's the skill and the experience and the potential that Linares had. It showed up that night. He gave Lomachenko all he could handle, and, he just got caught with a good shot at the end.
And no excuse. Lomachenko's look, I've admired Lomachenko for day one. He does things in that ring that we haven't seen before or haven't seen in a long time. Linares trained himself for that fight. Salas was in the UK.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he wanted him to go to the UK. And Jorge said, nah, I'm fighting in the US. Why do I have to adjust the time, then adjust back? So he worked with Capetillo and worked with his brother, who was barely learning how to train and had never been in that role, that lead role of a trainer. That I'm talking his brother. And Jorge pretty much, told me after I set up the strategy and then and going up to the end, it was a draw. One judge had him up, one had Lomachenko, and one had the draw.
Yeah.
So no shame. Obviously, he would have preferred, and we would have preferred that he come up, with the victory. But it's not like he lost to anybody. And that, again, is what I'm saying. When you put the best against the best, you get great fights in boxing.
Yeah, and that was a great fight. It really was. The punch that Lomachenko landed was perfectly placed under the elbow, right to the body. And, 9 times out of 10, he probably would have hit the elbow or just shaved that side, and it wouldn't have done as much damage, but it was just a perfectly placed punch.
And he was smart. If you remember before, he's touching. Not everything has to be hard, but that comes from experience. He touched, and then snuck in the right.
Yeah.
And that's what, like Jorge says, I got comfortable, so it was like, and then boom, when he least expected it.
Yeah, and as you said, the experience, there it is, Canelo and Khan. Canelo was setting up Khan that whole fight, going to the body. He did that throwaway left hand. Khan puts his hands down to try to block it, and there came an overhand right. So it's as you said, it's the experience. Now, I got a couple questions here from a couple people here that wanted to know something about GoldenBoy's fighters. One of them right here is going to be from my man here, Marty J Boxing. He wants to know, what do you guys have planned next for Rashidi Ellis?
Marty, great question, man. Rashidi Ellis is back in August. We haven't announced the full card, but next couple of days you'll get the full card, and he is on the undercard.
All right, Marty. So there's your answer. Rashidi Ellis will be back in August. One of the fighters that I've always liked watching, and I've even told you, is one of your prospects, is Luis Feliciano. What is he going to be up to?
Luis Feliciano in his last fight picked up the belt. It's a regional international belt, so that'll put him into the ranking. I know he's back in Cali, back in camp training, so hopefully this year, he's going to be ranked in the top 15 just with the belt. So a couple defenses so he can move up in the ranking. And, obviously this year shortened up for us because of the whole pandemic. But maybe in a couple of defenses, move up in ranking, and by the third one, you can start knocking on that door.
Yeah, and I told you the first time we spoke, I believe, on the phone, that I told you I was very interested in him. I love the way he fights. So yeah, that's one that I've always kept my eye on. I'm hoping to see him back, hopefully in the ring soon.
very composed fighter,
Yeah.
and you know what? A fighter that has either you're born with it or not, where you can go to the island because you could be Puerto Rican descent and still not the people are going to open you up with
Yeah.
open arms and grasp you and love you. Unless you win the world title, then hey, right?
Yeah. Then
Anyway,
that's where you are.
but Luis has fought in Puerto Rico and fought out here, so he has that advantage that he has two markets, and we'll continue doing that. You know, obviously until the big fight comes, and then hopefully, you know, once he wins that world title, we'll out there and defend out from Puerto Rico fans that supported him from day one.
Yep. And yeah, as I said, I've seen it from day one with his skills, and I can't wait to see him back again. Um, Speaking of some of the other prospects and fighters that you have in there, I want to talk about Sulim Urbina. I had her on the show just this past Saturday. Um, what's the plan for her? Do you guys have anything set up? Hopefully for her by within the next couple months. Is she going to be on one of the cards coming up?
So right now, obviously we're just July, but already I want to kick off with pushing. You know, we have several female fighters,
Yes.
champions, and I want to see that we can get one on each card over the next few months. And eventually, once they each get their fights and each get back in the ring, then start getting into maybe they fight each other or then they, you know, go on to world titles. But she's great. You know, she's always training. She's in the ring. She's with buddy. So we wait here and there, and her need for a WBC belt in order to get her into the rankings,
Yeah.
and then furthermore to go on and fight for the world title.
Yeah. And as I said, I told her I watched her fight when she started fighting in the cards in Mexico. Out here in the U.S., we watched them on Bean. I've been watching her since then, so it's been pretty good to see her improve and get to the point that she's at now as well.
She told me we were talking one day or texting back and forth, and she told me she had never fought in the U.S. And I couldn't. I mean, obviously you look up and you see it, but when she has that many fights, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So she said, yeah, no, my family hasn't been able to see me because I've been fighting in Mexico. Pencils are in Fantasy Springs. Her mom was able to see her. That's the fulfilling part, that, you know, you're able to do something like that, that you have the ability or the position to do it, to help others either make the dreams by becoming world champions or fighting for the world title or fighting in front of their family.
Yeah, and that's what's important right there. Is at the end of the day, the family's always going to be there for them. So I know that was probably a real special moment for her as well. Now you've been in this game for a long, long time. What's one of the most memorable events or fights that you were actually a part of, that you worked on, or that you helped set up?
Um, there's a lot. I mean, there's part that, you know, there's the part before I worked at GoldenBoy, being part of teams, fighting, and then there's, you know, during GoldenBoy. I think before would be Barrera Hamed, you know, just being involved in this whole preparation, Barrera in camp with snow. You see promos of Hamed in Palm Springs in the little cart.
Yeah.
It was like, wow. Maybe there were times where I'd say, I'd rather be in that camp than this camp. But seeing the confidence of a fighter from the moment he got signed, Marco was very confident he was going to beat Hamed. Seeing the whole camp and all the hard work, the sacrifices, and then and that final, you know, decision when his hand was raised and how that was very satisfying. That was very glad, you know, feeling. And then seeing the Ricky Hatton era was something very special. I'm very close friends with the Hatton family, and the atmosphere that he'd bring, I mean, it was just incredible. A
Yeah.
band singing, all his fans marching. Those days, I mean, I miss. And then what I said earlier, to see father son combinations win
Yeah.
titles, they're special. They're very special.
Yeah, and that Barrera Hamed one, I mean, I was just a young kid, but that was one of the fights that to me is one of my all time favorites because at that time, I mean, as a kid, I had rooting interest, and I did not like Hamed. I was not a fan of his. Yeah, the whole him coming out in carts and doing all that, taking so long to come out to the fight, I didn't like. So that I tell people that one, and I think Morales and Pacquiao, the first one, were some of the fights where I was like, yes, like because they weren't expected to win. It was Hamed was this guy that was just trailblazing through everybody, running through, doing his show and beating everybody. And then Barrera came in there, perfect plan, executed it perfectly, and I mean, he simply outclassed Hamed in that fight to a point where I don't even think Barrera's most loyal fans thought he was going to outclass him to that point.
I'll tell you a little story on that. Well, on the second part, you're absolutely right. A lot of the odds were why nobody gave Michael a chance. Uh, at the MGM, I would say fans were for Hamed. There was a small group of Irish, I want to say about 50. They were all for Barrera. Obviously, all the Mexican fans and Mexican American fans were there for Barrera, but they were outnumbered. That fight, from the moment it got signed, Marco told me, para ganarle a un loco, you got to be willing to be more crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm willing to do it. And Marco had a very calm, uh, like personality. Till you swell. If you remember the McKinney conference and then the Morales press conference, he could switch that button very fast.
Yeah.
He had a short. Now, what you said about Hamed, I agree with you 100% at that time. Today, I miss Nassim Hamed.
You know
Today,
what? I do, yeah.
I recognize how good he was. Number one, yeah, he did showboat. He talked a lot. He, cocky, this and that. But he backed it up with knockout.
Yeah.
He was exciting. Coming out in a ring, in a flying carpet. I mean, the crazy stuff he did at the end of the day was entertainment.
Yeah. And that was the thing is,
and then he knocked him out.
Yeah, and the thing was he knew how to play to it. He knew some people aren't gonna like this, some people are gonna love it. So he played it just right because there was. I mean, again, I've always said to me, I felt that he's a bit overrated, but I'm not saying he wasn't a great fighter. But it was just to me, I think it bugged me more that, as you said, fighters learn from losses, and when he lost to Barrera, I don't know if it was his psyche, how bad he lost that fight, that he was like, you know what, I'm done. And I think that's what bugged me as a boxing fan in person is that I wanted to see how he was going to respond to it, and he did it.
It's hard, and it happens in boxing. It's very rare when they lose a decision.
Yeah.
It's most of the time when they get knocked out that it's hard to come back.
Yeah.
It surprised, I think, everybody. But now looking back, it's almost like, I think in his mind, I'm never gonna lose. I'm too good to lose. I'm too pretty to lose. I'm the greatest thing. And when he lost, it was like, come back to earth. And it happens to a lot of fighters. But he probably just either didn't need it anymore or felt, didn't love it anymore. And if you don't love it, the love's not there. It's too dangerous to be doing it.
Yeah.
Or it really affected him.
Yeah, and that could be it too. Is you see fighters, maybe it's he knew as hard as he hit me and I didn't go down, maybe the next time I fight with someone, they might hit me harder, and it might be the one where I get caught, and that's it. So
He fought one more time,
and that was it, right?
and that was it. He called
Yeah,
it a career,
yeah, and that was always
which
my
surprised
thing.
everybody.
Yeah, and that was always my thing is
Now
maybe
check
that's why he
this
got
out.
out.
This is going to surprise you. This is going to surprise you and maybe a lot of the fans listening. The first Morales Pacquiao fight.
Hmm.
Pacquiao had beaten Marco. Marco had beaten Morales. The fight's made. And Marco and I bet. We were in Big Bear in camp preparing for a fight. And we're getting ready, like fight week or something of Pacquiao Morales. And we start talking among the team and everything. And he goes, "Who do you want? Who do you think is going to win?" And I'll admit it. I said, "Pacquiao's going to knock him out." He goes, "No, el terrible va a ganar." And I'll bet you. We put up some money, and after the fight, he was like, "Págame, cabrón." He
Yeah,
won.
yeah, and you know what is that fight? Um, I was, I mean, I believed in Morales, but the way he did that through the whole thing, I mean, he showed so much skill, and I mean, once he turned southpaw in that last round, I was like, "What are you doing?" And yeah, it was impressive, and yeah,
Just a little bit of the volume.
oh, there you go, you're back on. Can
Can
you
you
hear
hear
me?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, it seems like it froze a bit. I could still hear you though.
Hold on.
Okay, no problem. Technical things, guys. As you know, these are live shows here.
I have.
Okay, there you go. See you.
Oh, there we go. The audio's better.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
Sorry about that.
No problem. But yeah, as I said, the way he fought in that fight, man, it was. I jumped out my seat when he at that first round when he throws his gloves down. I was like, come on! And then when he turned southpaw in the last round, I was like, don't do that. What are you doing? And then it was like, man, and I just loved it at the end. His interview was, did you like it? It was, yeah, man.
Yeah.
That part always is. I tell everybody that's one of the most badass things I've ever heard. I mean, you went southpaw. You had to fight one, and you were like, did you like it though? I was like, oh man, that was beautiful.
Yeah, that's Eric. That's Eric.
Yeah,
I mean, Eric's always one of those guys that no matter what, I mean, he still wants to fight. You know, he's
yeah,
still an exhibition to help the people that are suffering right now in Mexico with the COVID and everything. But once a fighter, always a fighter. Once
yeah.
a warrior, always a warrior.
Yeah, and he's. I tell everybody he's been one of my favorite fighters ever. When I came up watching, I saw the end of Chavez Senior's career, but I watched the beginning of Eric Morales. So he was my fighter that I followed all the way through. From the Tijuana cards that he was on up until fighting, everybody he fought. The fight with Maidana was one of the biggest ones I've ever seen, just because I honestly thought he was going to get hurt, and he nearly won that fight. He almost knocked Maidana out at one point. So yeah, that is my fighter that I tell everybody. I don't have a rooting interest now, but back then that was it. It was Morales over everybody. And I tell people too, if you
No,
don't,
he was a hell of a fighter, man.
yeah, and I tell you, if you don't think how big Morales was of a star, look at that fight with Maidana, and you see Canelo in the audience jumping up and down, throwing punches in the air because he wanted Morales to win that fight. That's the effect that Morales had.
When Morales called Eric Gomez at GoldenBoy, I think Eric gave him a few names, and he said, "Nah." And I'm sitting in front of Eric in his office. Eric hangs up and says, "Guess who he wants to fight?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." Marcos Maidana. And I said, that's Eric Morales. That's Eric Morales. You know what? There's nobody out there that can beat me. I'll beat whoever. But Maidana, I mean, come on. Strong, young, aggressive. I remember we had a show in Prim, Nevada. Small Telefutura show.
Yeah.
I did that show, and I could have easily driven to Vegas to watch Morales Maidana. And I said, I'm going to go home. Here in LA, I didn't want to watch it.
Yeah.
Because he had that tremendous trilogy, and even though the teams didn't like each other, Barrera, Morales, there was still this respect that said, if he's going to lose, I want him to lose to a better fighter, but not just a younger, bigger, stronger.
Yeah.
And I'm at home. And again, we had gone against Morales 3 times. We weren't best friends. We now promoted him at GoldenBoy, but there was still that, he was Team Barrera, I'm Morales. I don't never forget jumping up and down in the living room right before the decision. And I called Eric and I said, oh my God, this guy called it. He did it. Yeah. He did it with one eye, and he did it. I thought he won. I thought he won the fight. I've told him in the past that you pulled it off, and unfortunately he didn't get the decision. But that just showed, not even in his weight class, but the skill level was able. And that's what you see in great fighters. They can go up and give up the natural physique, physical strength, and everything, but they're still talented enough to win in divisions that are not theirs.
Yeah, and that left hook that he landed on Maidana, that also, as we said, he was young and strong. Had that been, a fighter maybe at a little bit older, or a fighter at Morales' age, that guy's going face first into the ground.
Absolutely.
Because he wobbled him bad. Maidana grabbed him, and his legs, he had Bambi legs. If he doesn't grab him, he's going to the ground. So,
and you got to remember, Maidana's a guy that had gone down and gets up, with Victor Ortiz and even with Amir. So he's a fighter that even though he goes down, he's balls to the wall. He'll get up and keep going too.
Yeah, and that was a fight that I was like, oh my God, yeah. Oh, and then his eye, when it got hurt at first, I was like, oh, that's it, it's done. But yeah, at the same time, I ordered it, but I'm sitting there like, oh, just please don't get knocked out. Just please don't get hurt. Just please. Like, I was scared, and then I'm watching it. And I remember my dad didn't want to watch it because he was scared, and he called me, ¿Cómo están? I was like, he's whipping his ass. I was like, Morales is whipping his ass. I was all pumped up. I was like, he's got him right now. I was like, he just rocked him. Hold on, I'll call you back. I was so like, oh my God. And then at the end, I was like, oh, they gave it to Maidana, but it was a good fight. I think Morales won. I don't know. And he was like, are you serious? And then he watched it the next week, and he was like, oh man, he almost had him. I was like, yeah, it was a good fight. So, yeah, that was one of those moments. I know I've told you this story before, but I'm gonna bring it up just because I really want you to remind Oscar of this. When he beat Chavez Sr., I was 7 years old. Here, there's a theater. There was a theater here where I'm from in Fresno called Cine Mexicano. Me and my dad and a couple of my dad's friends went to watch the fight. When that fight ended in the 4th round, I have never seen so much chaos in a place. I'm 7 years old, and I was fighting people to get out of that place because of the beer being thrown, the people fighting. And I always laugh at that story because I tell people, you don't understand the level of what boxing does to certain people. Like, Chavez Sr. was that national icon to Mexico. And yeah, I always just laugh because I'm like, man, like De La Hoya, my dad didn't like De La Hoya after that fight. He was like, nah, su madre este De La Hoya. But after a couple fights, he was like, hey, Oscar's fighting, let's go watch it. And like, it's just the level of respect that he also had for Oscar after that, because he went toe to toe with, as he said many times, his idol. But yeah, that fight, it broke my heart. But yeah, it was a crazy moment.
No, absolutely. I think it broke many hearts. Even Oscar said a lot of his tios and tias were like, it broke their heart too, right? But At the time, it's difficult to understand because it was looked at as, look, the Mexican American beat the Mexican.
Yeah.
And the Mexican is the real, hero and not the Mexican American. But what happened now through the ages or through the years, that Mexican national that came to live in the U.S., for work and to come and better his life and this, that. His children are born here.
Yeah.
And they're the young Oscars today.
Yeah.
And that's how you become a Mexican American. So, that's the tough part because you go to Mexico, oh, no, you're not from here. You're a gringo.
Yeah.
And over here, you're not a gringo, you're a Mexican. So it's like,
yeah.
That's the tough position. But you know what? It made for 2 good fights.
Yeah, the second one was really good.
But it broke a lot of hearts because obviously to beat Julio, who everybody loved, and like you said, was icon. He was and will always be el gran campeón mexicano.
Yeah, and like I've always said, that one. Oh man, I was 7 years old and I still remember I'm out there throwing jabs at people like, move, I gotta go. And my dad calling for me and I'm ducking and yeah, it was crazy. But
and you know what? There's another one. Julio today, he's always hitting the bag. He's always training in great shape. He did a couple exhibitions for charity with Travieso Arce.
Yeah.
He even told Oscar, hey, let's do it one more time. Come on. And Oscar said, I'm going to train. I'm going to get
ready. Yeah. I always laughed. I remember that press conference that they had where they talked about the fight. And Oscar says that in the second fight, that it was that right hand that Julio hit him with, that was the hardest he'd been hit. And Julio says, oh, you should have told me. We could have had a third one.
That's right. That was in Vegas. Yeah. Julio said, bullshit. Yeah. We would have done a trilogy like these guys because Barrera and Morales were the other two.
Yeah, that was hilarious because I remember the fight. I was like, hey, is Oscar hurt? And they're like, oh, we've never seen Oscar hurt. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm the young guy here. Maybe that's why. But then years later, I was like, see, I knew it. I was like, I knew he got hit with something. I was like, I knew it. I was like, you could tell because I remember it was at least like 20, 25 seconds where Oscar just moved around the ring trying to get his legs back and then he ended up winning the fight. But yeah, I remember that, and I always like, see, I knew it. I knew I was right. I knew he got hurt. So, as you said, we got all your cards coming now. You have the one July, then you're gonna have one in August. Is there are you gonna try to put on maybe a couple a month if you're able to by maybe September, October? And obviously people want to know when the bigger names are gonna be back.
Well, I mean, right now we wanted to, start as early as possible, and Oscar and Eric have been, working hard to get these shows started. Originally, the start date, we were probably looking at September. Mm-hmm. So right now, July and August, we're happy, we're excited to get going a little bit sooner. And September, Mexican Independence Day. I mean, yeah, I think we could have a name or two out there for the fans. Yep. Hopefully be announcing soon.
Okay, so possibly Canelo in September then pretty much.
We always said once he came in and he became the face of boxing, that those are his dates, May and September. Yeah. Unfortunately, May got canceled because that was out of everybody's hands. But as long as we can move on September, it's very possible.
Okay, perfect. And that's pretty much what everyone's gonna want to hear. So perfect. Now, just as we've gone through everything, I know we've been on here for almost over an hour now. One of the other questions that a fan had asked me, they actually sent me a message that they wanted to know was being with GoldenBoy, and as you said, you were part of managers or teams before. What's been the biggest difference that you've seen being in the promotion, with Oscar from day one practically, as to when you were just, part of, as you said, you were part of Barrera's team, involved with just specific fighters. What's the biggest difference that you've noticed?
Um, Personally, when I was working with Marco and he was being promoted by Golden Boy, I learned a lot from Oscar. I mean, from what we saw all growing up, watching him fight inside the ring, everybody knows that story. I'm talking outside, what a lot of people don't know and see. And it was a particular fight, the Barrera Morales third fight, or the Morales Barrera third. There was some issues between the gloves. And Oscar came up. I mean, I didn't work for Golden Boy, I worked for Barrera. And Oscar came up and said, if Marco's not comfortable with it, let's go. We'll deal with the legal issues and the lawsuits and everything. But if he's not going to be safe or he's not going to be healthy wearing this particular brand, let's all go home. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
But Oscar was a fighter. So he looked out for Marco. Marco went on to fight with the winning gloves and obviously won the third fight, so it wasn't an issue. And now, since then, working for him, he supports 100% that fighters need to take challenges. And that makes my job easier.
Yeah.
I don't want to be told, make sure all our guys win, make sure they don't lose, make sure. I don't like that. I don't like the pretty record, 20-0, 20 knockouts, all in the first round. Looks beautiful. But what happens when they get a guy that throws back?
Yeah.
They freeze. So I have his support 100%. What he comes in and says, you know what he says? What are we working on? What are the fights? Make sure they're fights that the fans want to see. I want good fights.
Yeah.
Makes my job easier because that's what I want too. I want to give the fans the fights they want to see. I always think, look, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I love boxing. Would I pay to watch this? And now, what they got to understand is not every fight is a war. Not every 4 rounds or 6 rounds has to be a war. Once they start graduating and beating 20 rounds, that there's tests. That wants to become to that elite level, that top level, you won a world title. Josh and I were talking today, and he understands. It's hard to get there, but it's harder to stay up there.
Yeah.
How many times you see guys or fighters, champions go win the title, but it's short-lived because I'm going to start living like a champion now. That's when the hard work begins. And that's why people have to give Canelo credit. This is a fighter that at an early age was very mature. And already has everything. Multiple divisions, money, fame. But he's still working just as hard or harder. And it's not just that he's winning fights. Every fight you see improvement. Every fight you see something different.
Yeah.
That means he's still working hard in the gym.
Yeah, and that's why right now he is the #1 fighter in the world of boxing at this point in time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I know it's a little later now, but I want to thank you again for coming on real quick before we do head off. I want to give, a quick shout out to the sponsors here. Here in Fresno, Cali Smoke Shop number 4302 North Maple, Maple and Illinois. Go in there and go ahead and, for whatever you guys need, check them out. And also Dirt Magnets Janitorial, home business office. They will take care of your cleaning for you. Phone number 559-374-7112. Again, that's Dirt Magnets Janitorial. Roberto, again, I want to thank you so much, man. I know we've talked a lot over the last year. I mean, you did a lot for me last year. With everything that was going on with my niece, you were there and you were very supportive, and I really appreciate that. My family really appreciates that as well. That's why, I mean, you're one of the most respected men that I've seen in boxing. Every time there's a post about you, I mean, I've seen people from other promotions, just fans are like, "Oh yeah, Roberto's a great guy." So again, it means a lot to me that you come on my show, that you take time to talk to me when I have a question for you, when I want to ask you something. I really do appreciate when you actually reach back out and do all that for me.
It's a pleasure, Michael. Again, I love seeing people that are supporting the sport that I love, that's given me so much, and helping pass the word and spreading the word. Like I said, one of the toughest things is seeing the people that work in boxing, that live off boxing, and say they love it, trashing it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's always a fresh air, breath of fresh air to see somebody like yourself. And if I can do a little bit and add a little bit of, grain of salt to making this explode and become very successful, of course, all power to it. And I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. And yeah, I mean, as much as you can, I would love to have you on as often. Because again, I mean, as I told Beto Duran last week, you're like a walking encyclopedia when it comes to boxing, man. I could ask you a question about fights from any time, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember it to this point. So it's always something that I always admire you, and I love talking with you because you have so much knowledge that you're able to pass on to me. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And tell your little niece I said hello.
I will. And also, if you want to plug your show that you guys got going on Thursday, I know Beto did last week, so I know you guys got a great podcast show you guys got going on every Thursday as well with Beto, Joel, Diaz, and yourself.
Yeah, it's Thursdays with Beto Duran, living the dream, and it's more of a hanging out, having a drink,
Yeah.
and just talking stories. And it's, what, right now through the pandemic, it's been something at first that it was new to me. I'm like, nah. But like I told Beto and Joel now, I'm like, hey, it's Thursday. All right, hey, nobody bother me. I'm set up for Thursday, so I
Yeah.
look forward to it. Just to chat and hear what the facts want to know.
Yeah, and I mean, I enjoy watching it as soon as I can, watch the fights, and then I, set it up on the phone or put it on the TV, on YouTube to watch it, catch as much as I can, and then go back and watch it later. Because, yeah, I mean, as you said, it's just talking, but it's just some of the stories that you guys have talked about as well. It's awesome to hear. So I enjoy watching it. And when Beto brought it up, I was like, yeah, you guys got to plug that show, and I'm glad, and I love hearing it. So yeah, thank you guys for bringing that as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So, again, everybody, this has been 26 Sports with the great Roberto Diaz. Catch us this Friday again, 7 p.m. We will have new WBA Super Flyweight Champion Joshua the Professor Franco. And I know for a fact we're going to have so much to talk about with him. Everybody else that's watching, follow Roberto Diaz Michelada Time on Instagram and Twitter. And again, if you're able to interact with him, he has so much stories and he has great knowledge of the sport. So I want to thank him as well. Thank you guys again for catching us. Mike Reda, episode number 6 right here. Thank you guys for being with me so far. Hopefully we get to get it more. Let your friends, family, and everybody else know about this show. Want to make it greater and expand, as Roberto said. And until the next one, guys, we are out of here. And thank you guys for following. And I'll catch you next time.
Hey, Mike, real quick. Giants or A's?
Oh, baseball?
Yeah.
It's going to surprise you, but Giants.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm a Giants, baby.
Yeah,
That's good. I like that.
I'm a Raider fan, but I'm a Giant fan.
Oh.
I know. That's why when you guys were in the Super Bowl, it's like, oh man, I'm sorry, bro. I just can't do it, man. I was like, if they could both lose, I would take that because I can't stand Kansas City either, man. I was like, I hope the power just goes out and they don't do the game at all.
Take care, brother. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. Stay
No
safe.
problem. Thank you. We'll have you guys on back soon. Thank you.